You still remember the last time you asked her to hang out. You kept it casual. Low pressure, no worries if you're busy, you said. And she smiled and said, yeah, maybe soon. But soon never came. And you never brought it up again because deep down you already knew the truth. She wasn't avoiding her schedule. She was avoiding you. Not out of malice. Not because you did something wrong. But because your presence doesn't spark anything in her. And that's the quiet knife no one warns you about. Not rejection, but polite evasion. The kind that wears a friendly face but cuts just as deep. Think about it. When someone wants to spend time with you, they don't need convincing. They don't make you feel like a burden. They don't leave your invitations hanging in the air like unanswered texts. They say yes. They suggest alternatives. They show up. Even when life is busy, they carve out space because you're worth the effort. But she doesn't. Group events? Sure, she'll be there, laughing, talking, fully present, but one-on-one? Suddenly, her calendar is full. Her energy is low. Something always comes up. And you keep accepting it like it's normal, like it's just bad timing. But this isn't coincidence. This is choice. And every time she says maybe, but never follows through, she's choosing to keep you at a distance. Not because you're unworthy, but because you're not desired. That distinction matters. Because if you believe it's about your worth, you'll spend your life trying to fix yourself for people who were never meant to stay. But if you see it for what it is, lack of interest, you free yourself from the trap of self-doubt. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start recognizing she's just not interested. And that clarity, that's power. Because now you're not broken. You're simply mismatched. And mismatched doesn't mean you'll never be loved. It means this love was never meant to be. And that's not failure. That's redirection. You were built for connection that feels natural, not forced. For moments that don't require begging or convincing. For someone who doesn't make you feel like you're asking too much by simply wanting to be chosen. But right now, you're teaching yourself that half effort is enough. That silence is acceptable. That being included only when it's convenient is love. It's not. It's tolerance. And tolerance kills desire. It kills confidence. It kills the fire that should burn when two people are truly drawn to each other. Every time she avoids being alone with you, she's sending a message, not with words, but with action. She's telling you that she doesn't crave your company, that she doesn't miss you when you're gone, that she doesn't wonder what you're thinking. And if you can't have that with her, you certainly won't have intimacy, trust, or depth. Because those things don't grow in the soil of avoidance. They grow in the light of mutual desire, in the courage to be alone together, in the willingness to be seen, truly seen, by someone who wants to look, but you're still hoping. Still holding on to the idea that if you just wait, she'll change her mind. That one day she'll wake up and realize what she's been missing. But people don't change their level of interest out of guilt, persistence, or pity. They change when something shifts inside them, and that shift can't be forced. It either happens or it doesn't. And if it hasn't happened by now, it's not coming. Not because you're not amazing, not because you're not kind, loyal, worthy, but because attraction isn't logical. It's emotional, it's instinctive. And if it's not there, no amount of time or effort will create it. So stop waiting for her to choose you. Start choosing yourself. Cancel the mental reservations you've been holding in her name. Stop saving your best energy for someone who doesn't reciprocate. Start investing in your growth, your peace, your purpose. Meet new people, build your life, become someone who doesn't need validation from those who can't give it. Because when you do, something incredible happens. You stop chasing. And when you stop chasing, you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're finally living for yourself. The right woman won't make you feel like a maybe. She'll make you feel like a certainty. And when she comes, you won't be looking, because you'll already be whole. You still replay the conversations in your head like they mean more than they do. The way she said you're a great guy. The time she smiled when you walked in. The moment she replied with more than one sentence. You hold on to these fragments like they're proof of something deeper. But let's be absolutely clear. Being called a great guy is not a sign of interest. It's a farewell gift, a kind way to soften the truth she's too polite to say out loud, I don't feel it. And the more you treat kindness as a signal, the more you trap yourself in a cycle of false hope. Because she is kind, she is nice, and that's exactly why you're confused. But kindness without pursuit is not attraction. It's compassion. And compassion doesn't build relationships, it ends them gently. Now look at the questions she asks, or rather, the ones she doesn't. She doesn't ask about your dreams. She doesn't wonder what keeps you up at night. She doesn't remember the small things you've shared, your job interview, your father's illness, the trip you've been planning. If you disappeared tomorrow, would she notice? Would she reach out? Would she feel the absence? Or would life just continue uninterrupted? When someone is truly interested, they don't just hear your words, they hold them. They care about your inner world, not just your surface. They remember the details because they matter, because you matter. But she doesn't. She listens like a friend of convenience, not a soul on fire. And that lack of curiosity, that's not oversight. That's emotional disengagement. You were built to be known, not just seen, but deeply understood. To have someone who doesn't just tolerate your thoughts, but leans into them. Who asks, what else? Who wants to go deeper? But she doesn't. She's satisfied with the highlight reel, with small talk, with safe, shallow waters. And you keep diving deeper, offering your truth, your vulnerability, your heart, only to have it land in silence. No follow-up, no reflection, no connection, just space. And still, you give more. Still, you open up. Still, you believe that if you just show her enough of you, she'll finally want all of you. But desire isn't earned through exposure. It's felt. It's instinctive. And if she's not drawn to your depth, no amount of sharing will change that. This isn't about opening up more. It's about realizing that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Some people are only meant to pass through, to teach you, to challenge you, to show you what you're willing to tolerate. And this silence, this indifference, this emotional flatline is showing you exactly that. It's showing you how much you've been willing to give to someone who isn't giving back. How much of your soul you've poured into a connection that was never alive. But that awareness, that's the beginning of rebirth. Because the moment you stop begging for emotional reciprocity from someone who can't provide it, you reclaim your power. You stop treating attention as a prize to be won. You start demanding it as a right. You deserve someone who is curious about you, who wants to know your fears, your history, your silent battles, who remembers your favorite song and plays it when you're together, who notices when you're quiet and asks, what's going on in there? That kind of love doesn't need to be convinced. It's eager, it's hungry, it's present. And when you find it, you'll wonder why you ever settled for someone who treated your soul like background noise. So stop sharing your deepest self with someone who isn't holding space for it. Stop offering your truth to someone who doesn't protect it. Your vulnerability is not a tool to win affection. It's a gift. And gifts like that should only be given to those who cherish them. Until then, keep it close, protect it, grow it. Let it become so strong, so undeniable, that when the right person arrives, they won't just appreciate you, they'll be awestruck by you. Because the truth is, you're not too much. You're not overwhelming. You're not trying too hard. You're simply too much for someone who can't handle depth. And that's not your flaw, that's your strength. And one day someone will not only handle it, they'll thrive in it. But you'll only be ready for her when you stop wasting your depth on someone who doesn't even notice it's there. When you do, you won't just find love, you'll command it. You still make plans in your mind. You picture the dinner, the walk, the conversation flowing like water. You imagine her laughing at something you say, her eyes softening, her guard finally dropping. But it's all happening in your head, because in reality she's never there, not really. You suggest meeting up, and she gives you the same polite smile, the same vague reply, sounds nice, we should do that sometime. And sometime becomes silence. Again, and again, and again. You don't need to hear no to know the answer. You feel it in the way she avoids your invitations, the way she never follows up, the way she lets every opportunity fade into nothing. That's not hesitation. That's rejection dressed as kindness. And the longer you accept it, the more you teach yourself that your presence is optional. But let's be honest. When someone wants to be with you, they don't need to be convinced. They don't wait for the stars to align. They don't need perfect timing. They create the moment. They say, let's go. They pick the time. They show up early. They're excited. Because real interest doesn't live in maybe, it lives in action. It lives in effort. It lives in someone choosing you over their comfort, their routine, their solitude. But she's not doing that. She's letting life happen around you, not with you. And that's not because she's busy, it's because you're not a priority. And no amount of rationalizing will change that truth. You were built to be chosen, not tolerated, not included as an afterthought, but actively wanted. To be the person someone reaches for, not the one they settle for when nothing else fills the gap. But right now, you're allowing yourself to be background noise in her life. A familiar face in the group, a name in the chat, but never the focus. And that's not her fault. It's yours. Because you keep showing up when she's not pulling you in. You keep offering your time, your energy, your heart to someone who isn't reaching back. And every time you do, you reinforce the belief that this is all you deserve. But it's not. You deserve someone who doesn't make you wonder if they miss you, someone who doesn't leave you guessing whether they care, someone who doesn't treat your time as disposable. The truth is, emotional investment is the most honest currency in relationships. And she's not investing, not in your future, not in your connection, not in the possibility of us. She keeps it light. She keeps it safe. She keeps it surface level. Because depth requires desire, and desire requires fire. But with her, everything feels lukewarm. No jealousy, no vulnerability, no talk of tomorrow. Just endless small talk and zero forward motion. And you keep hoping that one day she'll dive in. But people don't suddenly become emotionally available when they've shown no signs of wanting to. They stay exactly as they are, until you force a change by changing yourself. And that change starts with walking away. Not dramatically, not with anger, but with quiet certainty, with the unshakable understanding that you will no longer beg for a seat at a table where you're not welcome. You stop initiating. You stop chasing. You stop holding space for someone who refuses to fill it. And in that silence, something powerful happens. You begin to heal. You stop measuring your worth by her attention. You start building a life that doesn't revolve around her presence or absence. You rediscover your rhythm, your purpose, your fire. Because here's what she'll never teach you. Your value isn't in how much you can endure. It's in how much you demand for yourself. And when you finally set that standard, the right woman won't need to be convinced to be with you. She'll fight to stay. She'll plan dates. She'll miss you when you're gone. Or she'll invest, not because you asked, but because she wants to. And when that happens, you won't need to analyze her words or read into her silence. You'll just know, because love that's real doesn't hide. It shows up, loudly, clearly, consistently. So stop waiting for her to choose you. Start choosing yourself. Cancel the mental reservations you've been holding for her. Stop saving your best days for someone who doesn't show up for them. Live like you're already loved, because you are, not by her, but by the man you're becoming. And when you live from that truth, you won't attract interest, you'll attract destiny. You still catch yourself checking her profile, scrolling through old messages, rewriting conversations in your mind, this time with a different ending, a reply, a confession, a breakthrough. But it's all fiction, a story you keep writing because the truth is too heavy to carry. She's not coming. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. And the most painful part isn't that she doesn't want you, it's that you've known all along. You felt it in the silence, saw it in her eyes, felt it in the way she pulled away without ever saying a word. But you stayed anyway, because letting go hurts more than waiting, because hope, even false hope, feels better than emptiness. But here's what you're not realizing. Emptiness isn't the enemy, it's the beginning. It's the space where you rebuild, where you remember who you are when you're not trying to be someone's almost. You were never meant to beg for attention. You were meant to command it, without speaking, without chasing, without proving your worth. Real value doesn't shout, it radiates. And when a woman is truly drawn to you, she won't make you question her presence. She won't leave you stranded in the no man's land of I like you, but not like that. She'll show up, fully, freely, without hesitation. Because attraction isn't shy, it's bold, it's certain. It doesn't apologize for wanting you. But what you're experiencing, it's the opposite. It's withdrawal, it's distance. It's the slow, quiet erosion of your confidence, one unanswered message at a time. And the longer you stay, the more you teach yourself that silence is normal, that crumbs are love, that your needs are too much. But they're not. They're human, they're healthy, they're deserved. You don't need to change your personality. You don't need to be funnier, richer, or more mysterious. You need to stop giving your heart to someone who isn't capable of holding it. Because the right woman won't make you feel like a project. She won't see you as someone to fix, to delay, to manage. She'll see you as someone to cherish, to prioritize, to choose again and again, without hesitation. And when she does, you won't need to analyze her behavior. You won't need a list of signs. You'll just know. Because love that's real doesn't hide behind mixed signals. It stands in the open. It says, I'm here. It shows up in plans made, in effort given, in energy returned. But until then, stop sacrificing your peace for the illusion of possibility. Stop twisting indifference into potential. Stop living in the shadow of a woman who doesn't want to step into the light with you. Every minute you spend waiting for her to change her mind is a minute stolen from the man you could be, from the life you could be building, from the love that's waiting. Not for a version of you that tries harder, but for the real you, the one who finally walks away with dignity. Letting go isn't failure. It's the most powerful act of self-respect you can make. It's saying, I refuse to be an option. I refuse to be someone's backup plan. I refuse to beg for what should be freely given. And when you finally mean that, not just say it, but live it, something shifts. Your energy changes. Your posture straightens. Your voice grows stronger. You stop looking for love in the wrong places. You start becoming the kind of man love can't ignore. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're finally living for yourself. The world is full of women who will light up when they see your name, who will miss you when you're gone, who will fight for you instead of making you fight for them. But you'll never meet them while you're still chained to someone who doesn't want you. So close the chapter, not with anger, not with regret, but with clarity, with courage, with the quiet strength of a man who finally chooses himself. Because when you stop waiting for her to see your worth, you begin to embody it. And that's when everything changes. That's when real love finds you. Not because you chased it, but because you became ready for it. You still feel it, the quiet ache in your chest when she doesn't reply. The way your stomach drops when you see her online, laughing with someone else, living fully while you're stuck in the limbo of what if. You tell yourself you're fine, that it's just a phase, that you'll get over her soon. But the truth is, you're not getting over her because you haven't truly let her go. You're still holding on, through your thoughts, your hopes, your silent prayers that she'll suddenly see you, want you, choose you. But love isn't a miracle, it's a mutual decision, and she's already made hers. The only decision left is yours. And that decision isn't about her, it's about you. It's about whether you're willing to keep sacrificing your peace for someone who doesn't value it, whether you'll continue to shrink your needs to fit into her silence, whether you'll allow your confidence to erode just because one person didn't respond the way you hoped. But here's the unshakable truth. Your worth isn't determined by her attention. It's determined by how you treat yourself when she's not watching, by the choices you make when no one's validating you, by the courage you show when it would be easier to stay. You were built for more than this, more than chasing, more than waiting, more than convincing someone to care. You were built to stand tall in your truth, not beg for a place in someone else's heart. And the moment you realize that, everything changes, not because she finally sees you, not because someone new shows up, but because you finally see yourself. Not as a man who needs to be chosen, but as a man who chooses, who walks away, not because he lost, but because he values himself too much to stay. This isn't about bitterness, it's about clarity. It's about seeing her actions for what they are, not confusion, not fear, not timing, but disinterest. And disinterest is not a puzzle to solve. It's a boundary to respect, not for her sake, for yours. Because every time you ignore that boundary, you teach yourself that your needs don't matter, that your time is endless, that your heart is disposable, but it's not. It's sacred, it's powerful, and it deserves to be met with the same energy you're giving. So stop checking her profile. Stop rereading old messages. Stop imagining futures that will never happen. Delete the conversations. Mute the stories. Create space. Not to punish her, but to protect you. Because healing doesn't happen in proximity to pain. It happens in distance, in silence, in the quiet moments when you finally stop looking for her and start looking within. That's where the real work begins. Not in changing yourself to win her over, but in remembering who you were before you started trying to be enough for someone who couldn't see you. You don't need to become someone else. You need to return to who you already are. The man who had dreams before they got buried under longing. The man who had fire before it got drowned in doubt. The man who didn't need validation to stand tall. Reconnect with him. Talk to him. Fight for him. Because he's still there. And when you do, you'll realize something powerful. You were never incomplete. You were never lacking. You were simply distracted by someone who made you feel like you were. The right woman won't make you feel like you're chasing. She'll make you feel like you're home. She won't make you question her feelings. She'll make them undeniable. And when she comes, you won't be searching. You'll be ready. Not because you've been waiting for her, but because you've been becoming someone worthy of real love. And that's the greatest power of all. Not winning someone's heart, but reclaiming your own. So let go, not with anger, not with regret, but with strength, with dignity, with the quiet certainty that you are enough exactly as you are. And when you live from that truth, you won't attract interest. You'll attract love, real love. The kind that doesn't hesitate, the kind that doesn't disappear, the kind that shows up fully, fiercely, and without warning, because you finally stopped begging for it and started believing in it. You wake up and for a split second, you forget. The weight isn't there. The ache isn't pulling at your chest. And then it hits. She still doesn't want you. The realization doesn't come with a scream this time. It comes quietly, like a truth that's always been there, finally settling into your bones. And instead of fighting it, you let it in. You stop resisting. You stop bargaining. You stop rewriting the story in your head. You just accept it. And in that acceptance, something shifts. Not because she changed, not because someone new appeared, but because you did. For so long you tied your worth to her response, her text, her smile, her attention, as if your value depended on whether she chose to see you. But here's the truth that sets you free. You were never the problem. You were never too much or not enough. You were simply not hers, and that's not a reflection of your character, it's a reflection of her lack of connection. And that distinction, that's everything. Because when you stop believing that her disinterest means you're unworthy, you reclaim your power. You stop begging for validation from someone who can't give it. You stop twisting yourself into shapes just to fit into her silence. You stand up fully, finally, and say, I am enough. Not because she sees it, but because I do. That belief doesn't come overnight. It's built in the small moments. When you don't text her back, when you delete her number without drama, when you scroll past her photo without pausing, when you spend a Saturday doing nothing for her, no thinking, no hoping, no waiting, and realize you feel lighter. That's the beginning, not of forgetting, but of freedom. Because freedom isn't the absence of pain, it's the presence of self-respect. It's choosing yourself, day after day, even when it hurts, even when the old habits pull at you, even when loneliness whispers, just reach out. Just one message, but you don't. You stay. You hold your ground. And in that stillness, you grow. You start doing things for you, not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, but because they make you feel alive. You lift weights not for her eyes, but for your strength. You write, create, build, not for attention, but for purpose. You speak up in conversations not to be liked, but to be heard. And slowly, your energy changes. You carry yourself differently. You speak with more certainty. You stop shrinking in rooms. You stop seeking approval in glances. Because you've stopped outsourcing your confidence. You've taken it back. And that's when real attraction begins. Not because you're trying to be desirable, but because you finally are. The right woman won't come because you chased her. She'll come because you became someone worth staying for, someone grounded, someone whole, or someone who doesn't need her to complete him, but chooses her to share his life. And when she arrives, you won't be desperate. You'll be discerning. You won't overlook red flags. You won't confuse kindness with love. You'll know the difference between someone who shows up and someone who shows off, between real investment and polite distraction. Because you've lived through the illusion, and now you only want truth. So don't mourn what never was. Don't waste energy on a door that's already closed. Grieve if you must. Feel the loss. But don't live in it. Move through it. Use it. Let it fuel your rise. Because every moment you spend in the past is a moment stolen from the future you're meant to live. A future where you're not defined by who didn't want you, but by who you became because of it. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are exactly where you need to be, on the edge of your own rebirth. And when you finally walk away from her, not with anger, not with regret, but with quiet certainty, you won't be losing love. You'll be making space for it. Real love. The kind that doesn't hesitate. The kind that doesn't disappear. The kind that meets you halfway, without you having to beg for the distance. And when that love comes, you'll look back not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because she taught you what you never want again. And in doing so, she led you to what you always deserved. You've spent so long trying to decode her silence, as if the answers to your worth were hidden in the spaces between her words. But the truth isn't in her behavior, it's in yours, in the way you keep showing up when she doesn't, in the way you keep giving when you're not receiving, in the way you keep hoping when every sign points to no. That's not love. That's self-abandonment disguised as devotion. And the most dangerous part? You've made it feel noble, like your persistence is proof of your character. But real strength isn't measured by how long you can endure indifference. It's measured by how fast you walk away from it. Because here's what no one tells you. Walking away from someone who doesn't want you isn't failure. It's self-rescue. It's the moment you stop treating your heart like a bargaining chip and start protecting it like the treasure it is. You weren't put on this earth to convince someone to care. You were put here to live fully, to love deeply, to build a life that doesn't revolve around the approval of someone emotionally unavailable. And every day you spend waiting for her to change her mind is a day stolen from that life. You keep thinking that if you just become better, stronger, more interesting, she'll finally see you. But she already sees you, and she's made her choice, not because you're lacking, but because you're not hers. And that's not a flaw in you, it's a fact of connection. Chemistry can't be manufactured, desire can't be earned, it either exists or it doesn't. And no amount of self-improvement will create it where it's absent. That doesn't mean you stop growing. You grow, not for her, not to win her over, but for you. Because growth isn't about attracting love. It's about becoming someone love can't ignore. And when you shift your focus from chasing to becoming, everything changes. You stop looking for signs in her behavior and start creating proof in your own. You build your confidence not through her validation, but through your actions. You wake up earlier, you work harder, you speak with more clarity, you set boundaries, you say no, you protect your energy, you stop explaining yourself to people who don't matter, and slowly your presence changes. You carry yourself like a man who knows his value, not because someone told him, but because he finally believes it. That energy is magnetic, not because it's loud, not because it's arrogant, but because it's real, and realness cuts through the noise of the world. The right woman won't come because you begged for her attention. She'll come because she felt your energy from across the room, because she saw the way you carried yourself, unshaken, unapologetic, unbroken, because she saw a man who didn't need her but chose her. And that's the kind of love that lasts, not the kind built on need, but on mutual strength. But you'll never get there if you're still emotionally tied to someone who doesn't want you. You can't build a future while your heart is stuck in the past. You can't invite real love in while you're still making space for someone who refuses to fill it. So close the chapter, not with anger, not with resentment, but with finality. Delete the messages. Step away from the memories. Stop romanticizing what was never real, because the greatest act of courage isn't holding on, it's letting go. Letting go of the fantasy, letting go of the hope, letting go of the belief that she might one day see you the way you see her. When you do, something powerful happens. You stop looking for love in the wrong places. You stop trying to force connection where there is none. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's attention. And in that space, you begin to live, not for her, not for validation, but for yourself. And that's when the real journey begins. Not the journey to win someone's heart, but the journey to reclaim your own. Because love shouldn't feel like begging, it should feel like coming home. And you can't come home if you're still wandering in someone else's silence. So come back to yourself. Reconnect with your purpose. Reignite your fire. Build your life. And when you do, you won't need to search for love. It will find you, because you'll finally be ready for it. Not as a desperate man seeking approval, but as a whole man who knows his worth. And that's when everything changes. You still feel the pull sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet, when loneliness wraps around your chest like an old friend. That's when the thoughts come back, soft, subtle. What if I just text her, just one message, just to see? But you know how it ends. You send it, you wait. The silence returns. And the cycle begins again. Hope, effort, rejection, repeat. It's not love, it's emotional addiction. And the drug isn't her, it's the illusion of possibility, the fleeting high of maybe. But every time you reach out, you're not reconnecting with her, you're re-injuring yourself, you're reopening a wound that was starting to heal, you're trading peace for a moment of false comfort, and it's not worth it. Because here's the truth that cuts deep. She's not going to change. Not tomorrow, not next year, not when you become someone she can't ignore. She's not waiting for you to level up so she can finally say yes. That's a story you're telling yourself to justify the pain. But real interest doesn't wait for perfection. It shows up early. It's messy, it's eager, it doesn't demand transformation, it celebrates who you are. And if she's not doing that, she never will. No amount of success, no new version of you will rewrite that truth. Because the issue was never your potential. It was her lack of desire. And desire can't be earned. It can only be returned. So stop building your life around the hope that she'll one day want you. Stop delaying your happiness until she validates it. You don't need her permission to live fully. You don't need her attention to be worthy. You are already enough. Not when you lose weight. Not when you get the promotion. Not when you find yourself. You are enough right now as you are in this moment. And the sooner you stop treating her silence as a verdict on your value, the sooner you'll start living like it's true. That means no more second guessing. No more rewriting messages. No more stalking her profile. No more letting her presence or absence dictate your mood. You take back control, not with force, not with drama, but with quiet, consistent action. You delete the number. You mute the name. You stop checking for signs. You replace the obsession with purpose. You fill the space she occupied with work, with growth, with real connection. Friendships, goals, challenges that make you stronger. And slowly, the ache fades. Not because you forget her, but because you replace her with something greater, your own becoming. Because that's where real power lies. Not in winning someone's heart, but in refusing to lose your own. Not in being chosen, but in choosing yourself every single day. Even when it's hard. Even when the loneliness bites. Even when the old habits whisper just one more try, but you don't. You stay. You stand firm. You honor the man you're becoming. And in that discipline, you build unshakable confidence. Not the kind that comes from attention, but the kind that comes from integrity. From knowing you walked away not because you gave up, but because you finally stood up. And when you live from that place, something shifts in the world. Opportunities appear. People respond differently. Women notice you, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're no longer desperate for their approval. You've become magnetic, not by chasing, but by being. By standing in your truth, by refusing to shrink, by becoming someone who doesn't need validation to feel whole. The right woman won't come because you tried hard enough. She'll come because you stopped trying to convince and started living, because she saw a man who didn't need her, but would choose her. And that's the kind of love that lasts. Not built on need, not built on hope, but on strength, on clarity, on mutual fire. So let go, not with anger, not with regret, but with peace, with finality, with the quiet certainty that you are worthy of someone who wants you without hesitation. And until she arrives, you keep building. You keep growing. You keep becoming. Because your life isn't on hold, it's in motion. And every step you take away from her is a step toward the man you were meant to be, and the love you were always meant to have. There's a moment, quiet, unannounced, when you realize you haven't thought about her all day. Not in the morning, not during the silence of your workout, not when a song came on that used to make you think of her. And for the first time, it doesn't feel like loss. It feels like freedom. Not because you've forgotten, not because you don't care anymore, but because your heart has finally stopped waiting. And in that stillness, you feel something you haven't in a long time, peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't depend on someone else's attention. The kind that grows from within. That peace isn't given, it's earned. Earned in the nights you chose not to text. In the mornings you got up and worked instead of scrolling. In the moments you felt the pull to beg for a sign and walked away anyway. You didn't win a battle, you won your life back. And that's the greatest victory of all. Not over her, but over the part of you that believed you needed her to feel complete. Because that's what this was never about. It wasn't really about her. It was about what she represented. The hope that someone would finally see you, choose you, validate you. But here's the truth that sets you free. You don't need to be chosen to be worthy. You don't need to be wanted to be valuable. Your existence is enough. Your effort is enough. Your quiet strength is enough. And the moment you stop tying your worth to her response, you break the chain. You step out of the prison of her silence and into the light of your own truth. You start living differently. Not for show, not to prove anything, but because you finally understand life is happening now. Not when she says yes, not when you finally get over her, not when everything is perfect. Now, and if you keep waiting for the right conditions to live fully, you'll spend your whole life on pause. So you begin. You take the trip. You start the project. You say the thing you've been afraid to say. You speak with confidence, not because you're fearless, but because you're done letting fear decide your life. And as you move forward, you notice something. People respond to you differently. Not because you've changed for them, but because you've changed for you. You carry yourself like a man who no longer needs approval. You listen deeper. You speak with clarity. You don't perform, you are. And that authenticity, that's what draws real connection. Not charm, not games, not desperation, but the quiet power of a man who has faced his pain and kept walking. The right woman won't come because you tried to impress her. She'll come because she felt your energy. Steady, grounded, unshakable. She'll come because you weren't looking, because you were too busy building a life worth sharing. And when she arrives, you won't panic, you won't overanalyze, you won't beg for her to stay. You'll simply open the door and say, welcome, because you're not desperate for love, you're ready for it. But you'll never get there if you keep one foot in the past, if you keep leaving space for someone who never filled it. Closure doesn't come from a conversation. It comes from action, from deleting the number, from not reopening old messages, from spending a weekend fully present, no longing, no checking, no hoping. That's when healing happens. Not in words, in choices, in the 1,000 small decisions to choose yourself again and again until it becomes who you are. So stop asking when you'll move on. You already are. Every time you choose growth over grief, every time you choose effort over escape, every time you choose your future over a fantasy, that's moving on, not in a single moment, but in 1,000 quiet acts of courage. And one day you'll look back and realize she didn't break you. She revealed you. She showed you how much you were willing to endure, how deeply you could feel, how far you'd go for love. And in doing so, she led you to the most important relationship of your life. The one with yourself. Because love shouldn't make you smaller. It should make you bolder. And until real love comes, you keep becoming. Not for her, not for anyone, but for you. Because the man you're building now, he won't just attract love, he'll define it. There's a quiet moment, no warning, no fanfare, when you realize you no longer need her to validate your worth. It doesn't come after a grand gesture. Not after revenge success or a new relationship. It comes in the middle of an ordinary day. You're walking, working, breathing, and suddenly the weight is gone. The ache, the constant pull, the mental loops that used to trap you. They've faded. Not because you forced it, not because you finally got over her, but because you stopped feeding the illusion. You stopped pouring your soul into silence. And in that space, something real grew, self-respect. That's the turning point. Not when she notices you, not when someone else chooses you, but when you choose you. When you stop measuring your value by someone else's attention and start building a life that reflects your truth. Because here's what no one tells you. Love doesn't fix emptiness. It flows from fullness. And you can't attract real connection when you're running on emotional fumes, begging for scraps from someone who can't give you a meal. You have to fill your own cup first, not with distractions, not with temporary highs, but with purpose, with discipline, with the daily choice to show up for yourself, even when no one else does. And that's where real power begins. Not in getting her to want you, but in realizing you don't need her to, in understanding that your confidence shouldn't rise and fall with her replies, that your peace shouldn't depend on her presence, that your future shouldn't be on hold because one person didn't choose you. You were never meant to beg for a seat at someone's table. You were meant to build your own, to sit at the head of it, to create a life so strong, so grounded, so undeniable that love doesn't have to be chased. It simply finds its place beside you. Because the right woman won't come because you tried hard enough. She'll come because she saw a man who wasn't looking, a man who was too busy living to perform, too focused on his mission to play games, too solid in his truth to beg for approval. And that's what draws real love, not need, but strength. Not desperation, but depth. Not effort to impress, but consistency in being. But you'll never get there if you keep one hand in the past, if you keep reopening old messages, if you keep hoping she'll suddenly see what she refused to see all along. That's not loyalty, that's self-sabotage. And every time you go back, you weaken the new version of you. You tell yourself that silence is acceptable, that crumbs are love, that waiting is noble, but it's not. It's theft. Theft of your time, your energy, your potential. And the cost isn't just emotional, it's existential. Because while you're stuck in her shadow, the life you were meant to live moves forward without you. So close the door, not with anger, not with drama, but with finality. Delete the messages, step away from the memories, stop romanticizing what was never real. Because healing doesn't happen in repetition, it happens in release, in the courage to say, I'm done. Not because you hate her, but because you love yourself too much to stay. And when you do, something shifts. Not in her, in you. You start waking up with more fire. You speak with more certainty. You take risks you wouldn't have before, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you finally believe in your own value. And that belief changes everything. It changes how you carry yourself, how you set boundaries, how you demand respect, how you walk away from anything less than what you deserve. The world begins to respond, not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. People notice. Opportunities appear. Real connections form. And when love comes, it won't feel like a miracle. It will feel like a natural extension of the life you've built, because you won't be searching for it. You'll be ready for it. So don't mourn what never was. Don't waste your fire on a door that's already closed. Build, grow, become. Live like you're already loved, because you are. Not by her, but by the man you're becoming. And when you live from that truth, you won't attract interest. You'll command love, real love, the kind that doesn't hesitate, the kind that shows up, the kind that stays, and it will come not because you waited, but because you were finally ready.